This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It's Friday. It's Friday, July 12th, 2024. As we're trudging through July here, we're nearly halfway through and nearly, are we 3 weeks away from SummerSlam already? I think 3 weeks, so things are coming quick, as they do, and we're going to jump into the mailbag here with a patron, as we do, and this is AJ, and he says two things. One, I agree with your take on the women's mid-card belts. There shouldn't be any until the WWE shows they can manage the current belts better and just the division as a whole. Having just one women's match at a pay-per-view is a joke, and not having any championships on the line is just poor booking. Hopefully this can be fixed and improved so the women can get mid-card titles, but I'm skeptical that this will happen. That's been my argument, and I don't have anyone else who seems to be on the contrary to this. Maybe as we go on in the email list here, we'll find somebody, but it comes down to the fact that they just can't manage the belts that they have. So why are we adding more? And here's the thing, even if they were managing those belts well, the argument for bringing in more belts still isn't very strong because more belts means less value to each championship. Simple economics. More of something means it's worth less. That doesn't not apply here to wrestling belts either. In professional wrestling, nothing is exempt from that principle. So, yeah, this is something that I think that just because, well, also that if they don't have a championship match on a PLE, you could say that for the Intercontinental title, you could say that for the U.S. title, you know, and how many times did we see Roman's championship, or what was, not be defended on a PLE? I mean, there were months that went by at a time when that wasn't defended. So I don't think that's really exclusive to the women's division. But also when you have the women's division that every match seems to be about a championship, almost every match, then you don't have a division that is diverse with issues. It's all about championships or bust, and that shouldn't be the case. Personal issues also sell. Okay, number two, am I the only one who hates the idea of Money in the Bank? It's too overpowered and clear that WWE doesn't fully know how to use it in a believable way. Why would anyone not cash in ASAP, unlike Priest? And I'm glad the men's is already gone. Also, would have been fun to see Green win the women's one and just never actually cash in for the full year because she's too scared. Sorry for the wall of text, just a good point on the mid-card belts I wanted to add to. Thanks, AJ. Yeah, Green winning and just forgetting to cash in would be hilarious. Maybe she'd be the very first Money in the Bank holder for the men or women that simply just forgets and her time expires. That would be pretty funny. She holds it for a full year, but goes over the year and forgets she has it. I don't know if it's too scared, but I would just do it that she just forgot. Yeah, she simply just forgot. That would fit her character, but also you would have to be okay with the idea of wasting a Money in the Bank for the women. And I think a lot of people would look at that as, so we waited 12 months for nothing, for the payoff of just Chelsea forgot. So I don't think that'll ever happen, but it would be funny if it at least once did happen for the men or women. You just have someone just forget. So thanks, AJ. All right, let's talk to DJ. And he says, how's everyone feeling about this past Money in the Bank from this past Saturday? Live from Toronto in Canada. Most important, how's everyone feeling about the conclusion of the PLE? In my opinion, this six-man tag match should not have been the main event. The main event should have been Priest versus Rollins, with the setup being that Drew was going to cash in, and then Punk interferes and spoils Drew's hopes of becoming champion. Yeah, DJ, I get your point, but here's the thing. Bloodline is at the top of the card for everything right now. I mean, Bloodline, because guess who's coming back in a matter of a few weeks, probably. Things are going to rocket into really into the driver's seat for WWE. This is going to be the top storyline, and it has been for a while, but this is really going to solidify it when you have Drew McIntyre, or rather Roman Reigns return. So back to the 6-man tag, which was very over the top. In 24 minutes, we got to see 2 ref bumps, a weird botch by Tonga Loa, and Solo pinning Cody for the victory. I was very surprised that Cody took the pin. I thought it might have been KO. I totally understand that Roman returning at Money in the Bank would be too early, but what was very bizarre was there was no Jay or even a returning Jimmy to make a potential save for this new version of the Bloodline. But we'll have to wait and see what happens next, as we're a little over 2 weeks from SummerSlam and a potential Roman return. The thing is, DJ, there are a million ways to skin this cat and how you want to bring the whole OG Bloodline back. You could have them trickle in. Jimmy comes back. Jimmy gets beat down. Jay comes to his aid after they put their differences aside and reconcile. And then you have Paul Heyman come out on stage. I still believe it should be a maniacal smile as he comes out, maybe still in a neck brace, standing on the stage and smiling, and then pointing to the entranceway, and Roman's music hits as like this evil, you guys done effed up kind of smile. That's how I would do it. I would even have Paul Heyman get a couple shots in if he can do it. Maybe a couple kicks on Solo or something. I think the fans would love that, because we have now turned Paul Heyman babyface, which has happened. People are acting like, by the way, Paul Heyman turning babyface is some kind of miraculous, just unforeseen, improbable turn for Paul. Paul's been a babyface before. He was with Brock Lesnar for a significant period of his run. So it's not uncommon, and he's so talented. Is it really shocking to anybody with that magic that he has on the microphone, with that ability he has to speak? You really think it's that hard to get Paul Heyman to a babyface role? People love the guy. He's been generally a heel manager and has done an outstanding, beyond Hall of Fame job. But some people, not you, DJ, but others have just been so shocked that, oh my God, isn't this incredible? It's like, not really. I mean, Paul Heyman has done it before, and he's a magician on the microphone. They shouldn't shock anybody. So, all right. The saving grace and the best match in the Money in the Bank was the ladies' ladder match. Each participant in that match held their own, especially Canada's own Chelsea Green, who went into a blaze of glory, crashing into 2 tables from off the second ladder, with a brief interaction backstage between Trish and Tiff. And Tiffany wanting to have a match against the legend. It seems like there might be a Trish versus Tiffany matchup in the near future. But before we get there, do you think we'll get a successful Tiffany cash-in as early as SummerSlam? Good question. It's a good question. One that I think they should do. I mean, Tiffany, well, here's the thing. Is Tiffany ready? Not will she be successful. I think when they do have her cash in, she will be. But the question, I think the bigger question is she ready for that role? I honestly think it's possible, even dare I say, somewhat likely, that we have Tiffany Stratton cash in at SummerSlam. Because let's be honest, guys, Bayley's run has been boring. And that's being kind. It has been shortchanged, unlike a run we've seen in a while, especially with a talent like Bayley. I mean, they've done her dirty. I've said that before. So having Tiffany Stratton win, I think, is a very likely scenario. In fact, I know you have Nia Jax out there, but Nia Jax could win and then have Tiffany cash in on Nia. Or, I mean, the problem is you have Tiffany and Nia who have seemingly found some mutual respect for one another on SmackDown. And they seem to have formed some kind of alliance. So I could see, in all likelihood, probably Nia beating Bayley at SummerSlam, and she should. As I said, if they're gonna treat Bayley like this, I don't want the belt on her. And no disrespect to Bayley, this has nothing to do with her performance. She's doing what she can with the very limited camera time that she has. But if they're going to treat her like this as champion, I mean, it's hurting the championship. It feels like we have an absentee champion, doesn't it? It feels like we have an absentee champion. And you know what? This isn't so much different than when Io was champion for 6 months or however long it was after she cashed in on, Ronda Rousey, I think? They essentially put her aside, and it was about everyone else except Io, who was the champion. Then Bayley wins, and you're thinking, all right, here we go. And they're doing the same thing to Bayley. So it's a trend now. And if they're going to treat these two women like that, then I don't want the championship on them because it's hurting the belt. So I would say Nia or Tiffany become women's champion, or Tiffany is the briefcase holder while Nia is champion, and then there's tension there. And they play it off like maybe Tiffany could cash in on Nia, blah, blah, Either way, I mean, I strongly believe that Bayley is probably going to lose the belt at SummerSlam, which is a damn shame. They have done nothing with her run this time. Nothing. And it wasn't like she won it at, a B-level PLE. She won it at the biggest event of the year, and they've done nothing to follow up on it whatsoever. All right. Third, and finally, John Cena mentions a potential final run in the company from January to December of next year instead of having his final match at WrestleMania 41. What are the 3 potential feuds you could see Cena getting involved in, and does Cena get involved in a feud against the Bloodline for one final time? DJ Kuzma signing off. Have a great weekend. See y'all in the Discord chat for SmackDown. All right. So, as far as the 3 potential feuds, I mean, it'll probably be a mix of old foes and helping get new talent over. Now, I think one of his feuds has to be Randy Orton. It has to be. And I would say that should be his final matchup is against Randy Orton in December of next year, if that truly is his final match. So he'll end it in December, which is always is that not a weird time to end your career? Why would you not go to WrestleMania 42? If you're only a few months away, it's weird. And also December is a big downtime for wrestling. Typically it's the holidays. There's not a lot going on. You're still not at the Rumble yet. You're in this kind of dead zone. It's weird, but maybe he's doing that so the focus isn't on him come WrestleMania. It's about the future of the company. I mean, all this is very strategic. There's nothing here that's being done by accident or hasn't been thought of. So there's a reason why it's December and not just a few months later in WrestleMania 42 that he ends his career. But Randy Orton has to be it, and I still believe it will be his final opponent, again, whenever that will be in December of next year. The other potential programs, I mean, you could have Braun Breaker. I know that sounds weird, but I don't think John Cena is going to be stuck to a brand. He's probably going to be able to float wherever he wants. So I think that you have Braun Breaker, you have CM Punk. I know he has been very vocal, even on air, about making him an opponent for Cena before he leaves. You have potentially I'm not even going to say that. Solo, he's already messed with Solo. He's not going to have a match with Roman. That's already been done. Plus Roman's turning babyface. Maybe one more dance with The Rock. I lean towards no on that one. I think their program and their 2 WrestleManias of 27 and 28, I think it was. They, I think, are concluded. Plus their interaction this past WrestleMania, I think, kind of put a cap on it. So I think that you have maybe a Rock. I give that like a 10% chance. You go back there. I don't think Brock Lesnar and John Cena does anything for me whenever Brock Lesnar comes back. As far as nostalgic returns against John Cena. Here's one I would love. And I said this before. Here's my fantasy matchup. MJF versus John Cena. I mean, I've been asking for that. Not necessarily for the in-ring, which would be fine. And, probably very good. It's the promos. I mean, if you can somehow get him out of that damn AEW contract and bring him to WWE in 2025, you got to do MJF John Cena. I know it's highly unlikely. I would imagine that he signed multiple years with AEW, which means it's at least through 2026, 2027. It's almost impossible. But if I had control and I could play Puppet Master, I would have MJF John Cena as my number 1 over any potential program. Would be MJF. But I mean, there's other guys too that you can think of. Maybe some new blood. As I said, Braun Breaker seems to be a good program for John Cena if they want to go that road. Help him get over some new talent. But I don't know. I think that it's going to be a fun 12 months, and who he works with first and last are, of course, going to be very controversial, and you're not going to be able to hit everyone that everyone wants to, right? All right, let's go to another patron here, Freeman. I like your theory on the intergender match between Dom and Rhea. I know Rhea would push for it, but I get the feeling that WWE knows better. They won't even allow men to attack women in the ring, so having a full-on match, I don't think will happen. It would also damage Dom beyond repair. He's already He already is known to never win. If he loses to Rhea, he'll be a jobber for life. If he beats Rhea, then WWE would come under stigma for letting a man beat a woman. It's a lose-lose scenario. What's more likely is to happen is a mixed tag with Priest and Rhea and Liv and Dom, with the winning team taking both the men's and women's world titles. Yeah, that's very possible. I like that. And I know you don't think it's likely, but I think they're tempted to do it because, again, Rhea Ripley would love it and feels like she feels like she's Joni Lore, i.e. China, that she belongs in the men's division. She's been very vocal about that. That's not my assumption. She's said that. Now, I think it's a bad idea for the reasons you mentioned, but also because they probably will have Dom get zero offense in. If they actually did a one-on-one with Rhea and Dom would have no offense. None. Or if he did, it would be like him moving out of the way as Rhea, hits herself into the turnbuckle. It would be self-inflicted stuff. So there's no punching. They might get a drop toe hold on her, right? Something super soft, because the man versus woman thing, I mean, first of all, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. In real life, Dom could kick Rhea's ass. I know people, oh, what are you talking about? Guys, okay, I don't want to get into it because it bleeds beyond pro wrestling and other topics. But if you really believe that Rhea Ripley in real life could beat Dominic Mysterio in a fight, it's just, it ain't going to happen. It wouldn't happen. Much less Rhea Ripley versus anyone else. No, I know your perception of Dom is, oh, he doesn't have a lot of muscle. He looks like, Rhea looks like she could beat him. Except here's the problem. Being a man, you have certain just immutable advantages over women. Higher lung capacity, strength, endurance, bone structure, everything from top to bottom. I don't care if Dom doesn't look like he's, Buff Bagwell or Scott Steiner. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you. It doesn't. Anyway, I'm getting beyond it, but it would be a poor idea. It would be a very bad idea. If they do it, I won't be surprised, but I will have a rant that you guys will want to pay attention to for sure. All right. With John Cena's retirement, everyone is talking about who he'll face and who his final matches will be against. I think the one match he needs to happen is Cena versus Joe Hendry. Everyone is so interested in seeing Cena versus the top talent star studded mega matches, but I'm more excited for who he will face that isn't one of the big players, as it will give a clear indication on who WWE thinks the future of the company is, and picking an NXT talent seems like it sends a message. I'd pick Joe Hendry for this spot, as he's arguably one of the most over talent in the business right now, and with their gimmick being similar, it would be an interesting new versus old match. I saw Joe Hendry, not Henry, Hendry, and you know what? His entrance is, it's exactly what they want it to be. It's catchy, it sticks in your head, and he's good. I took a little time to watch it, and it's a funny entrance. They zoom into his face as he does that stupid smile. I mean, it is catchy. Say his name and he'll appear. From a few weeks ago, I said, "Who the hell is this guy?" And I really didn't know, but I've watched him and I go, "Okay, I get it." Finally, with Money in the Bank being over, it's been one whole year since I've been watching WWE, and this time last year, I thought I would just give watching a match or two a try. As I heard the Bloodline thing, it was kind of cool, and I wanted to know how it ended. I never thought I'd be watching every show on a weekly basis, and I think a large part of that is because the extra engagement I get from you doing the podcast. So I just want to say a big thank you for everything that you've done and the passion you bring. It's infectious, and I'm sure it's gotten more than me hooked. I appreciate that, Freeman. And maybe WWE can send me some kind of commission for your viewership, some kind of percentage of their sponsors' revenue for keeping viewership up. That's cool. I'm really here to just talk about what I love, which is obviously things that everyone listening to this show also loves. So we share a passion for wrestling, and that's always weird for me to hear that people sometimes hang on to wrestling in part because of this show. It's kind of weird to me. Not that I'm not grateful for it. It's just kind of strange that I'm sitting here in my little office, probably hundreds or thousands of miles away from my listeners. And it's like somehow, what I do in an enclosed room, thousands of miles away from people listening to me has an impact. I don't know. It's just when you really think about it, it's kind of wild. Anyway, so that's cool. Well, I really encourage you to continue watching. I mean, wrestling's going to get hot, even hotter than it is now. With all the returns, we're ramping up into SummerSlam, which really now bleeds into Survivor Series, which then bleeds into the Rumble, which bleeds into WrestleMania 41, and so on and so forth. And the returns are just beginning. Rhea Ripley was just the start. Charlotte Flair is on her way very soon, I would imagine, at SummerSlam or just before, just after. As we said, The Rock, Roman Reigns, just to name a few. Brock Lesnar, he's floating out there too. All right, Dino from Scotland. He says, don't be forgetting about us Spotify listeners. You always mention Apple and Patreon at the end of your shows. Some of us love Spotify ad-free. You know what? That's a damn good observation, Dino. I keep forgetting that Spotify has ad-free because what happens, the reason Spotify has ad-free is because Patreon is actually linked with the Spotify feed. So yeah, that's a great observation. Thank you, Dino. Spotify listeners can listen to this ad-free. If you go to Patreon, it's connected there. Okay. So that's a great observation. I'd like to bring up Braun Breaker's entrance. It seems like he has some new music. I have to be honest. And I say this, I quite liked his original theme. I think this new theme is actually worse and it's bugging the S out of me. To me, I didn't like either. To me, they sound just, there's nothing catchy. Not that we all need to have a sing-along party, right? Everything doesn't need to be Cody Rhodes. Everything doesn't need to be Sami Zayn. You know, everything doesn't need to be Seth Rollins, all the woes and all that stuff. No, I mean, plus he's a heel and you don't usually want your baby face or your heel entrance themes to be sung along by fans. It's kind of counterintuitive to what a heel is. But I mean, yeah, it's, to me, Braun Breaker's music has gone from just to like it just hasn't, to me, it's just flatlined. It's not better. It's not worse. It's still just bad. It's just bad. In other words, it doesn't need to be sing along, but it also doesn't, it should be recognizable. It should be something that maybe sticks in your head that you can hum along to or that you can recognize. And I guarantee you, if you played his new music, 90+% of fans would not recognize it. They'd go, huh? What is this? What is this? What is this generic rock music? What is this? Is this a bad Disturbed track? What is this? It's bad. It's just bad. They need to keep going back to the drawing board, please. It's terrible. And yes, it matters. His entrance music does matter. Have you even considered Damian Priest walking out of SummerSlam in Cleveland still world champ? You said he was a transitional champ, but think about it. You half expected him to drop the title to Jay at Backlash, and he walks out of France as champ. He was expected to lose to Drew, but he walks out of Glasgow as champ. And then you expected him to drop to Seth and Money in the Bank, but he walks out of Toronto still champ. My question is it time to maybe consider the fact that Damian's not a transitional champion and has a realistic chance of walking out of Cleveland still world champion? I know I'm about to sort of debunk my whole point here, but I do think Gunther becomes a new world champ at SummerSlam. But you actually can't rule out the possibility that Damian somehow retains. I doubt it, but I know he does not, or he does have a bit of a track record now of overcoming the odds, if we're being honest. So this is a weird little kind of backward psychology deal, because now WWE's got us to a point where for the first 3 title defenses, we've thought, oh, he's got to drop it. He's a transitional champion. He's going to drop it here. He's going to drop it here. And now we're coming to SummerSlam, and we've been fooled 3 times. And we may be thinking, oh, well, actually, no, he may retain here. WWE seems to be comfortable with him as champion. There's actually a real chance. And then they're going to drop it now, right? So they may have gotten us to a point of conditioning us to believe, wait, whoa, maybe he is going to retain, to then doing it when we think things are safe. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, I was of the belief, like many, that he was a transitional champion, but I've also said that he's done a really good job, overachieved. Yeah, he's had a couple of botches with his, he got his foot stuck in the rope at, Backlash, I think. He got his foot stuck in the rope. We all thought he snapped his leg. Scary moment for sure. And then he had the botch finish at Money in the Bank, which, again, I don't really care so much about those botches. I really don't. It's just, I think from a presence perspective, from a promo perspective, I think he has overachieved. And I really don't hate Damian Priest as champion. I think there is a chance he still retains, despite the kind of weird psychological, wait, we got the fans now thinking, wait, he might retain this time. Every time we think he's going to drop it, he doesn't. And now SummerSlam's coming up. We think for sure he's going to drop it. Now he's not going to, but now that we don't think he's going to, maybe they will. You see, it's wild, right? So I think but here's the thing. Let me just level with you. There is a significant chance he still retains. I'm not going to say it's overwhelming that he doesn't. Plus, don't you want to anoint Gunther at maybe an even bigger event than SummerSlam? You have Seth Rollins also floating out there, and the idea maybe is Seth Rollins is a special referee for this match instead of having it be a triple threat. And if that's the case, Seth Rollins is going to play some kind of role here. But if you're going to play some kind of role, well, whose role does he take? You know, even Seth Rollins playing special referee, what's the vested interest there? Why? Why would he be the special referee? There's no special rivalry between Damian Priest and Gunther that he has to somehow contain that a normal referee can't. I don't understand, because that's been the general consensus, is it's going to be, instead of a triple threat, Seth will be the special ref. Well, it doesn't make sense to me, other than just, we don't have anything else for you, stick you in the main event, but not as a competitor. It's kind of weird to me. I still believe that it might be a triple threat. Then you have Seth in the middle of this, and Seth could easily walk out as champion too. So until I know the final card for that match, it's hard to say, but either way, it's still a strong chance. I'd say 50-50 that Priest walks out as champion still. Keep overcoming the odds. Keep getting interference on his behalf. And I think Damian's on his way to a babyface turn anyway. He's already halfway there. All right, Dino, thanks. Let's go to another patron, Hungry Pup. And he says, overall, Money in the Bank delivered. The only outcome I'm second guessing is the failed cash in, but we'll get to that. So for the men's Money in the Bank, you gave it a 1 out of 5. Made sense to have Drew win for all the reasons that did not come true. Excuse me, but if not Drew, I wanted Gable or anyone but Jay. The IC Championship, 4 out of 5. Good result. Sammy's run needed a win against a tanky opponent. Sadly, this also pulls us closer to Sammy dropping at SummerSlam. The WWE Championship, the World Championship, 2 out of 5. We got what looked like a botched count, late music, followed by Punk spoiling the cash-in. Good for Priest, good for Punk and Drew's rivalry, bad for the next 12 months of no Money in the Bank. Women's, 3 out of 5. Overall, this exceeded my expectation of train wreck. Happy that Tiffy won and looking forward to that payoff. And then the main event, 5 out of 5. I'm typing this while the main event is still on because I'm bored. Only watching because I'm waiting for Rock. Could care less about Roman and nothing. Sigh. Well, yeah, but it's Money in the Bank. Yeah, it's Rhea's return. Now we're going to start getting into the big dogs here. No pun intended. We're going to get into Roman. We're getting into Rock. We're getting into potentially Brock, as I said. Again, Charlotte Flair for the women's division. So we're getting there. Big returns are on the horizon. Maybe even big debuts from NXT like Joe Hendry. You know, maybe we bring him up to NXT at Rumble or something. I think Joe Hendry, if he continues on this path, he's already making some noise. I could see Joe Hendry coming up to the main roster and being that NXT debut call up for the Rumble. All right. Where am I at here? Did I lose myself? Did I already talk to, I don't know if I did, but let's talk to him anyway. Jason Miller. Maybe you're getting a duplicate. Hi, Matt and WWE Podcast World. Another patron. It's Jason from Oregon. It's 7:28 p.m. on a Saturday, and I wish I could be watching Money in the Bank. We couldn't watch right at 4 p.m. Pacific time when it started. We tried to start at 6 p.m. Pacific time, but wanted to rewind and watch from the start. Peacock only allowed us to rewind so far back and not at the start, so we waited until it was over at 7, except now the post-show is on and it still won't let us watch from the start. Lame. Peacock should let us start from the beginning. It's 2024. Where are my flying cars, space tourism, and the ability to start a PLE from the start? Jason, I had that same issue a while ago where I was trying to start from a beginning and it was still going on. It's just a matter of, I think, they have the ability to do it, but I think the technology to do it is expensive to allow that many people to kind of stream it as they want while the event's going on. A live stream is different when it comes to the ability to kind of manipulate where you want to go. And it is more difficult when I've noticed too, even to go back to a certain point, it sometimes chooses where it starts and you're like, no, I don't want to see this yet, right? It F's you up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. It sometimes and oftentimes doesn't allow you to go back to the beginning while it's still live streaming. I don't know what that's about. Again, it has to do with just, I think, the cost of maybe the servers or some kind of, that money's involved here because the technology to do it is still there. But I agree. Yeah, it's a first world problem, is it not? All right, let's get to Logan, another patron, and says, I really feel that Money in the Bank was a huge disappointment beside the women on the card. The ending to the Bloodline match didn't feel right. Sami won to continue a boring reign as champ. Drew won the briefcase just to get screwed for the third time in a row. And Damian retained to take the title to SummerSlam and to defend it against Gunther, which is not a match I wanted to see or I'm even interested in. The only right feeling I got from the card was Tiffany Stratton winning the briefcase to more than likely be the first failed cash-in for the women. I also feel it's very possible we see a triple threat match for the IC title at SummerSlam with Sami versus Breakker versus Dragunov. Maybe not Elia. Elia? Oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe not Dragunov, but a triple threat match would feel right for Sami to lose the title to Breakker by Braun pinning whoever the third is. Yeah, that's true to keep, I guess, protect Sami a little bit. And there's an argument for that to be made, even though Sami's an established star. Sami's in transition of trying to change his identity and how fans view him, which forever has been underdog from underground. And I have felt that way up until he made the proclamation a couple weeks ago that, you know what, I'm not the underdog anymore. I'm the champion. I've been here long enough that I should earn the respect to not be an underdog anymore. There's something to be said for that. There really is. So I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And that would protect Sami, gives Breakker the title. And Sami Zayn's run, just like Bayley's, although not as bad, has been boring. You could even argue with Cody Rhodes, and this isn't me with the Cody being a hater on his character, which of course I am. I'm not a fan of his character at all, as you know. But just objectively looking back, stepping back from my emotional feeling about his character, just looking at its title reign objectively as I can, it's boring, and it has been boring. I guess it hasn't been what everyone hoped it would be, especially if you're a Cody Rhodes fan. I'm genuinely asking this to the Cody Rhodes fans out there, the ones that were supporting Cody from the beginning and love his character right now. This is a genuine question. How do you feel about his run since WrestleMania? Do you feel like it has been everything you hoped it would be? Or has it been a little underwhelming? I think you know the answer. I'm not curating reality to you or for you to guide you to the answer I think it is, although I think I know what it is. But thanks, Logan. All right, let's talk to Fritz. Fritz, let's go. Hi, Matt. I trust you are well. A short message to mention two things. First, I had a good chuckle at the unintentional irony during this week's Raw review when you touted The Office as arguably being one of the best and most downloaded shows ever, and shortly thereafter you saying you fell asleep watching it. Good stuff. I didn't even think of that. But here's the thing. A show can be really good, but also fall asleep to it. And it doesn't mean that the show isn't interesting, but also it's a show that I've seen. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. It's also great background noise. If you're just looking to unwind and turn your mind off, it doesn't mean by falling asleep that the show's not interesting. It just means that it relaxes your mind to a point where at the end of the day you're so exhausted that you just fall asleep. I do see the irony there, but it's not. If this was a new show, like if it was some kind of drama, some kind of action thriller, and I fell asleep, then I think it's a little bit more of a referendum on the fact that it's just not an interesting show. But how many times? Okay, Big Bang Theory, Friends, the two really large successful sitcoms. Love them or hate them, they're the most successful sitcoms in history. You can't tell me, those of you that are fans out there that have watched those or The Office, that you haven't fallen asleep to those episodes if you're lying in bed. It's just the way it is. It doesn't mean it's not an interesting show. So, but I appreciate that, yes. Second, I had a pretty good laugh during the Raw segment where Dom said, or Dom goes, quote, "It's hard, man." And Carlito points and says, "It looks pretty good. Looks pretty hard to me." Yeah. Carlito being the horn dog is really funny right now. Carlito is giving us a side of his character that is new. He's a heel, but also kind of like this perv heel. That's, I mean, it's entertaining. Yeah. I think that's worth mentioning for sure. And thanks, Fritz. The other thing I didn't mention on my Raw review that I can't believe I missed, and I'm surprised no one called me out for it, is the segment with Punk and Seth. I like completely glossed over that. That's what I get for doing my shows at midnight. It is, I thought, by the way, just so you know, I thought the segment was very effective. It was awkward at times. They clearly don't have a script that they're going off of, which is great, but also can lead to awkward pauses and moments. And the apology from Punk to Seth, but not really an apology. It all just set the table for a future Seth and Punk rivalry. We're not quite there, so it didn't get to a boiling point, but it laid the foundation, and that was the purpose of it. Seth and Punk are going to have the match that they were supposed to have this year, but were derailed because of Punk's injury. I think it's getting there. It's just going to take a little time, given the fact that it's now Drew and Punk. We're getting into SummerSlam, how long that rivalry goes, but then you have Cena floating out there for next year, so how do you implement that? Seth and Punk do have some underlying tension that was never resolved from last year's Survivor Series when he returned. There's a lot there. But the purpose of the Raw segment was to set the table for it in the future. All right. I wanted to touch on that because I felt like a dummy, totally missing it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is Jeff. Jeff T. He says, was listening to your nostalgia podcast from 2 days ago. Any chance going back to doing those or at least adding the clips back in? I think that would be fun. Yeah, Jeff, that's not a bad idea. I mean, I've been kind of just reposting them from years past because I'm guessing a lot of those of you who have listened haven't heard them before. Yeah, I think that's doable. But at the same time, trying to find time to even do the shows I'm doing now is challenging with my schedule and work, family, everything else, and just doing this show. And there's more to this show than people realize. It's not to say I work harder than anybody. It's just to say, like, this is the reality of content creation. It's more time consuming than people realize because all the people that are consuming it do is hit play. But you hit play and there it is. It's like there's so much work that goes into it behind the scenes, and it's for every content creator I have the utmost respect. So the point of me telling you all that is just it's difficult to create more new shows. It sounds easy. You just sit in front of a microphone for 30 minutes. It's like, no. Right. There's so much more that goes into it with time and production and posting and editing. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So it's something that I totally appreciate you bringing up. And it's on my radar of things to improve the show on top of more video. I know I keep saying that, but I did just purchase some wireless microphones that I can attach to my phone via Bluetooth. So that means I won't sound like I'm in like an echo chamber when I record audio on my phone or video on my phone. So that is something I'm working on doing because I've now invested some money in microphones to connect to my phone to do more video. Okay. So it's on the radar, among other things. I'm pushing myself to as far as I can go with more shows, and I hear you. So, all right. Where are we at? Let's go to one more. I think we have one more email. And that is King Scully in the house. And he says, how are you? And the WWE podcast Galaxy. Oh, we're in a galaxy now. Well, galaxy isn't as big as the universe, not even close. So I guess we're a smaller, tight-knit community being in a galaxy. All right. So for your Money in the Bank event, you didn't watch it. Well, you say properly anyway. I just can't watch a whole event at the moment. I try and watch bits. I think the current champions have really put me off, to be honest. Cody Rhodes, give me a bucket. Sami Zayn, Damian Priest. I do give massive props to Paul Heyman, though, with his recent performances. They definitely missed out on a finish in the six-man tag at the Money in the Bank. That was a perfect opportunity for Orton to hit an RKO out of nowhere on Cody. It's the same old crap ref bump. Trust me, King Scully, an RKO on Cody is coming. We can all feel it loading. To use a technical term, it's loading, right? It's downloading. It's buffering. And it will be complete, I think, in the next several months. I think in the next, okay, this is very general. In the next 6 to 8 months, I think we will see an RKO get hit on Cody Rhodes. And RKO Randy versus Cody is going to be fun as hell. All right. The Women's Money in the Bank Botch Fest. Although I like Tiffy time, and I like... Oh, you said the Women's Money in the Bank was a botch fest, but you do like Tiffy and Chelsea. And the men's was wasted with Drew winning. If anything, it would have been better for Punk to have cost Drew then. Yeah, but see, here's the thing. It's a bigger screw job for Drew to win and get within an inch of winning again, only for Punk to screw him again. See, they've pushed it as far as it can go without Drew actually winning. You get it to that right at the edge, and that's where Punk screws Drew again and again and again. Chad Gable should have won. It was obvious Drew's cash-in would end up being an absolute failure. Priest versus Rollins wasn't great. I just don't think Priest is ready to have the title, even though he has it. And Cena announcing his retirement tour in Canada doesn't make sense when WWE was just in Boston, hoping for a Cena heel run, which is doubtful. The Steiner and Sammy did a good job. I like Braun for sure. Okay, King Scully. So you're not going to get the heel run from John. The reason I know that, he said it verbatim in his post-press conference interview when he was directly asked, will we see it? And Cena said, no, he doesn't think it's the right time. It wouldn't be true to his character. He feels people would see through it at this point. I still would love to see what that looks like, given if this is truly his last run. I mean, I don't even care. Here's the thing. I don't care if people would see through it. I just want to see what it looks like, that we can say we got it. You know, I don't care. We all know we can see through everything that's done. Why? It's pro wrestling. So I think that there is something to be said for if this is truly it, you're not ever going to come back for any kind of in-ring competition, then this is it for the rest of our lives. You'll never have an opportunity ever again. I don't care if, we can see through it. Who cares? Give it to us. What is that going to do? If this is your last shot and that's it. The idea that, people can see through it. People could, again, every heel turn or babyface turn, people can rationalize as to, I can see that doesn't make sense. You can say that about anything. I think people would love a John Cena heel turn. And here's an even better reason why you could do it. Not only because it's his last chance and that's it, but it's on Netflix, which means there's no more censors. John Cena can go rogue. He can go rogue. He can just, there's no muzzle on him. There's no handcuffs. You can do anything within reason, of course. It's more of a TV-14 environment. You don't have to use PG limits with a heel character, which really does hamstring some heel characters. But I don't think it's going to happen. With all that rationalization, I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. All right, King Scully. Thank you, my friend. We've got a voicemail. Let's start with a couple of those and see how far we get.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Record to you live on a Wednesday morning, as always, as I return to the Mailbag, the audio part, that is. I know I took 3 months off since the release of my guys, the Indies Share, as they're no longer in WWE. But today embarks a new journey, a new path, a new show, as I talk about one of the most popular guys out here today in professional wrestling. He's kind of appears in WWE. He is on TNA, and you probably already know who I'm going to talk about. But before I get there, I just want to say, once again, the Indies Share will continue to be my guys. Going to continue to root for my guy, Veer Mahan, Sangha, and the modern-day Maharaja Jinder Mahal. It seems like their non-compete will be expiring very soon, as we are in July, maybe with the hopes of all three of them showing up in TNA at Slammiversary. But whatever the case may be, let's get to who I am going to do the report of reports, as I talk about the movement of movements, not the Yeet movement of main event Jey Uso, not the Yes movement of LA Knight, but I'm talking about a guy weighing in at 231 pounds, 6'2", coming from Edinburgh, Scotland. You know who I'm about to talk about. None other than Joe Hendry. That's right. I'm a big fan of Joe Hendry. Not the bandwagoners, but I've been a fan of Joe Hendry for the past couple of years. He did show up in TNA, well, back then where they were called Impact, in 2022. He was, in my opinion, kind of a mid-carder, with his parody songs and, his funny jabs about Drew McIntyre and a whole bunch of other wrestlers. But now his We Believe movement is picking up steam. So you know what? It's time to move on to a new guy. And that show is going to be called The Joe Hendry Report every single Wednesday on the Mailbag. Hopefully I can continue this momentum as I talk about one of the most over guys in professional wrestling. He's on TNA. He's showed up in NXT. He's on magazine covers. He's making appearances in the indies. Joe Hendry is that guy. Do you believe, as John Cena believes, as none other than Cody Rhodes believes, and a whole host of professional wrestlers believe in Joe Hendry? This is the year. This is the time. This is the movement. We believe in Joe Hendry. Now, with that being said, before I go, I want to say one more thing. I want to ask you a question. Do you believe? This is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. And remember to say his name and he will appear. As always, say this to my friends. This is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week and peace.
Well, say his name and he'll appear. I mean, it's really that easy. I have to say I might be a bandwagoner, admittedly. I'm not going to sit here and pretend, as you know, not you, DJ, just generally everybody listening. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I've ever said the name Joe Hendry before he debuted. And people lost their minds. I remember coming on here a few weeks ago and I said, who the hell is this guy? I had no clue. You guys know the indie scene way better than I do, which is kind of embarrassing given I have a wrestling podcast, but that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I'm sure. Call me a bandwagoner. It's fine. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But I like that. Joe Hendry Report, a guy that is hot right now, a guy that is kind of the flavor of the week, but maybe longer, hopefully longer. Catchy music, great look, hilarious entrance, got a great smile. Kind of an obnoxious, but like he's got like an infomercial, like a sleazy infomercial smile that seems to work. Yeah, just all he's got everything going right now. So I appreciate that, and I think you've caught on to a good guy to follow. So looking forward to it, DJ. I appreciate it, and glad you're back. Let's keep rolling.
Hey, Matt, it's Devin here from Australia. Wow, quite a good PLE or whatever it's called. PLE? Yeah, anyway. And even though there were botches in the ladder matches, it's like, I don't really, and I think it didn't bother you either. I mean, these guys are kind of getting more and more dangerous each year, and you look at this and you go, ugh, like, people are going to get seriously hurt. I don't know how. They're going to have to kind of maybe temper it down a bit in the future because, man, some of these bumps are getting close to permanent damage for people if it goes wrong. Even Chelsea Green falling off right at the end, that's bloody high. Then still on top of that, out of the ring onto the ground. Jesus. It looks great, but, you've got to give these guys their dues, and these women their dues, because it is, wow, yeah. But anyway, hey, I heard a rumor that they may be introducing an Intercontinental and a US title belt for the women's division, which I think could be quite interesting. I mean, no one really cares about the tag team belts for the women. I mean, it just doesn't seem to get the traction for whatever reason. But it could be fun having a mid-card titles for the women as well, so it's in line with the men. I mean, given the tag team title hasn't really worked, I mean, they might as well try it. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you're well, and have a good week.
All right, Bevan. So there are a lot of risks that are unnecessarily taken. I feel like, now at the same time, I respect what they're trying to do. They are literally, this isn't hyperbole, they are literally putting their lives on the line every night. I mean, and especially in those ladder matches that are even more heightened of a risk. And not just their lives, like their livelihood is, I mean, they're going to die, but what if they break a leg, break an arm, break their neck, for God's sakes? I mean, it is getting a little bit too high risk, at least from a humanitarian perspective looking at this. But as wrestling fans, some of the soulless wrestling fans out there, which at times we all are, we look at it as entertain me, clowns. I want big moves, big bumps, crazy stuff. But we don't sometimes realize, like, these are men and women. They're made of flesh and bone. And just because they're super athletes doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, or it doesn't mean that the risk is mitigated because they're super athletes. The risks are always there, which is, it's a looming dark cloud that, you know, when you're watching these matches, you're thinking to yourself, Oh man, I remember like here's the thing with wrestling, you want to be drawn in, you lose yourself in the moment, and you do. Sometimes it's done by great storytelling, or the match itself is just great. Even if the story sucks, sometimes the match makes up for it. But oftentimes, the wrestlers take such unnecessary risks that it takes you out of the moment in a way that's not saying, "Oh my God, bad! Oh, the botch sucked," or "This match is terrible," or no. It takes you out of the moment, and you actually take a humanitarian perspective, and you look at this and go, "Oh my God! Like guys, please, gals, please, you don't need to do this. I don't want to watch this match and think to myself, I'm about to watch someone become a quadriplegic. I don't want to watch matches and think that, and at times we do, and it's uncomfortable to watch as a fan because you love what you do, you love watching, you respect what these men and women are doing. And sometimes they're taking these risks that you think as a fan, like, my God, why are we doing this? And I know they'd say, well, we're doing it as safely as we can. Yeah, but the risk isn't zero. Sometimes it's less than like an inch, one way or the other, from being paralyzed or being injured severely and totally you're just getting a bump or a bruise. And it's, I'd agree. The thing is also with these matches, they're always trying to outdo one another. Whatever they haven't seen, what risk hasn't been taken yet. You can't, like, there reaches a point where you just can't go any higher without actually doing things that actually will probably get you hurt, where the risk is too great to even try. So when they try to constantly outdo one another, outdo the last match, the risk then increases. Like, I'm watching a graph, the risk and the reward, that's an inverse relationship often, right? So I don't know. I totally agree. And as far as your comments regarding the women's Intercontinental and U.S. title belts that have been floating around, I mean, I gave that already just as a quick review. I think I have no issue with the women having it, but I don't want them to have it until WWE shows they can actually manage the belts that already exist. And they're ignoring Bayley. Okay, they're effectively ignoring Bayley. Before they ignored Io Sky. They have done a nice job with Liv, and now Rhea's chasing Liv. So that's fine. But the tag titles have been an abomination from the beginning. At times they've shown promise, but most of the time it's been a disaster, with the tag titles either being completely uncontended or there's no contenders for the belts, where you have champions but no actual division. So essentially you have uncontested champions, uncontested champions, and often, or they win the belts, a tag team wins a belt, win the belts, and then they just disappear off the face of the earth for months at a time, or the belts play hot potato. The tag team belts have been a disaster. Okay, so they have not exactly shown us that they could even manage the belts they have. On top of the fact that you have the women's division that is constantly only talking about championships, and very rarely is it about big matches with big personal issues, which oftentimes are better than matches with championships involved. So that means that every match and everything that's ever talked about in the women's division will now effectively be all about championships all the time. And the women don't get enough time anyway to justify that. How are you going to shove in 2 more championships into a division that already doesn't get enough time? Again, you would have to set the table for this to happen. Like, they're just shoving this in. If they do this, they're shoving it into a division that's not ready for it. Because you have to have certain parameters in place to then introduce the titles. They're introducing the titles and then effectively trying to conform it around the titles that are now being shoved into the women's division and into a crowded women's division. No, you should set the divisions up. You should set the table where the fans are the ones who are now clamoring for it. The fans are creating a movement for it. The fans are saying they want this. Instead, WWE is like, hey, we're going to do this now. And it's like, well, why? Just to say, oh, it's all about equality. Well, sure, but you don't. If you do it, here's the thing. If you do it right now, to me, it will be looked at as they're doing it to check a box to say that the women now have an equal number of championships as the men. Instead of doing it when the time is right, they're doing it to say equality. And instead, they're going to create a disastrous effect of too many championships to manage, where they can't even manage the ones they have now. And the women's division, I think, unless they're going to give them significantly more time, which I don't see them doing, I think it'll have a disastrous effect on the women's division. But that's just my thoughts. I could be wrong, but thanks, Bevan. All right, let's see if we can get another voicemail in here.
Alex, the French guy here, your current European champion. I just saw Money in the Bank. Guys, what can I say? The WWE is wasting the Money in the Bank contract on feudal opportunities, on feudal story arcs that doesn't need it. Drew McIntyre doesn't need the Money in the Bank briefcase to have a World Championship match. He didn't need it. I know during a storyline-wise they wanted to bring that up, that he needs to earn it and everything. Drew McIntyre is a main eventer. He doesn't need the briefcase. Jey Uso needs it. Chad Gable needs it. Aaron Knight needs it. Hell, even, I don't know, like, everybody but Drew McIntyre needs the Money in the Bank. And I can understand him winning the briefcase, just win the World Heavyweight Championship, but not for this again. I mean, you had this exact same story in WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre winning, but couldn't handle to look away from CM Punk, and CM Punk screwing him out of the World Heavyweight Championship. Once again, why? I mean, I can understand. I don't understand really, like, why won't you give an opportunity to some mid-card games, to some upper mid-carders, just like Jey Uso, or maybe Chad Gable is strict mid-card, but Jey Uso is the perfect candidate. Even if he loses the title in the Money in the Bank match, it's not the point. You gotta elevate him. And the Money in the Bank briefcase just did that for my favorite superstar of all time, Edge. I understand during the years, we also have this false idea that every Money in the Bank holder did elevate himself. It's not right. It's not the case. Few of them did because of how we utilized the Money in the Bank briefcase. Edge did it. CM Punk did it. Dolph Ziggler, in some extent, did it. But the rest, I don't know. Daniel Bryan, some extent, but it was not the pinnacle of his career. That's just all for me for this week, but really disappointed on the usage of Money in the Bank. You are using 2 matches for one storyline, 2 matches plus 1 briefcase, and it handicaps the other superstars. That's it for me this week. Bye, guys.
Well, you got to remember what the Money in the Bank briefcase is for. Money in the Bank briefcase is often for a heel, to take advantage of a champion that is at their weakest. That's what heels do by their nature. So the prize for this match fits the nature of a heel perfectly, which is why you see more heels win. So sure, Chad Gable's a heel, but I don't think they're not ready for him to be world champion yet. Plus, they felt that this is the sacrifice of not having Money in the Bank throughout the year. I think they looked at it as twofold. Number one, they don't have to kind of find a way throughout the year to have it cash in, like have somebody cash in. They wanted to get rid of it right away. They don't have plans for Money in the Bank this year. They have their own set plans, clearly moving ahead. They don't need Money in the Bank to be that like, oh crap, we got to cash this in before, it expires in July, right? Damian Priest got to the point where people are like, oh my, yeah, they got to have him cash it in. And the closer you get to that expiration date, it becomes more obvious that they have to use it as soon as possible, which takes away the surprise element because you're getting close and they got to do it soon. And it also, they felt that it was worth sacrificing with the, to further the Punk and Drew story. I know they've done this a couple times, but now it's the 3rd time that Punk's done this, and it heats up the rivalry. They feel to a boiling point. Also, if Jey Uso was to win, do you really want Jey Uso winning the briefcase and then subsequently winning the championship at a moment when the babyface or the heel champion is at their weakest? Don't you want Jey Uso's first win to not be as advantageous as that? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you want Jey Uso's run to be a little bit more legitimate and straight up and beating a champion at their best rather than at their weakest point? So there are problems with the Money in the Bank briefcase, especially for babyfaces, which we've seen in the past have often said, okay, I'm cashing in next week. I'm giving you a week's heads up. It's like, well, okay, Mr. Moral Compass, thanks, but you're also an idiot because you're not using it to its fullest extent. And if becoming champion is so important to you, why are you looking like you're trying to be the good guy here by giving me a heads up? It makes you look like a fool. So you see how the Money in the Bank briefcase is often for heels to win. It's a perfect prize for a heel. So, all right. I think we got one more, and then we will close it out.
Hello, Matt and listeners to the Mailbag. This is your good friend, Michael Gross, the gardener, coming from the mean streets of Louisville, which aren't all that mean today. It's just kind of overcast and dreary. I just want to say that I hope everybody likes the content that the whole WrestleMagic crew has been going through and creating for everybody, the wrestler interviews and just some of the insight and some of the shows that we're trying to give you that they're not, exactly dated. You can listen to them at any point. So kind of like the point of WrestleMagic. So it's just our way of saying thank you, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to be part of the WWEpodcast.com family. I also want to say a warm welcome to Amanda. I really like the work you're doing. And I just want to say hello to everybody and miss you guys. And we've got more content coming and a lot more irons in the fire. Everybody have a great day.
All right. Well, Michael, good to hear from you, buddy. And hope all is well down there in the mean streets of Louisville. Make sure you watch out for the Main Street Posse. Was that Shane McMahon's group? Is that right? That was Greenwich though, so different city. Anyway, yeah, guys, check out WrestleMagic. They've done a few great shows lately. Raven is the most recent one. Obviously, those of you back in the 90s, early 2000s remember Raven. Really fun interview that they did. Check it out. It is available over on Patreon ad-free, but you can check it out Apple Podcasts ad-free and Spotify. Thank you, Dino. Spotify is also ad-free if you become a patron. It's connected to the Spotify subscription. So, yeah, check it out. I do appreciate it. You guys do you guys are just kind of like the different flavor for the show. You guys look back at different topics, think of topics that I don't think of and our team doesn't think of. It's less on the current product, more on the past. So if you like that kind of content, then WrestleMagic's for you, and you can catch that really anytime, like Michael said, on the feed. Tons of different content that they've produced over the last several months, and I'd really recommend you guys go check it out. So that'll do it for me on the mailbag. I appreciate everybody for calling in and for sending their emails. Is always appreciated. You guys are the reason this show exists. So I guess I'll bid you adieu. And tomorrow will be the SmackDown review from Amanda. You guys, I know, have enjoyed her. I have as well. She's done a great job covering SmackDown. And I hope she continues. And we have the Week in Review, WWE Podcast Week in Review, coming on Sunday as well. If you're looking for the NXT review, just FYI, the NXT review, we're having technical issues. Okay, we're having technical issues getting the file to upload and get things rolling on that. So if we may not have an NXT review this week, depending on timing. If we don't resolve it by the next time NXT has a new show next week, obviously we're not going to put a show on that's a week old, in which that would make a whole lot of sense. So, all right, well, that'll do it for us on the show. Again, please go ad-free if you want to get rid of those ads. Follow us on X at Wrestling Audio, or just search the WWE Podcast. We're on X there too. Give us a follow. And you can also go ad-free on patreon.com/WWE Podcast. That'll do it for me this evening. Hope everyone enjoys themselves this weekend. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.